Hello, everyone. I hope that you're having the most incredible day. Welcome back to Reignite Your Soul podcast. We are live here on Instagram for another live episode, and we have another incredible guest coming on here today, Kristen Mabee, and she's a financial coach. And we are going to be having a chat about money. And I'm super excited for this chat. It's going to be really good. Money is kind of one of those taboo topics in society, and you may be feeling a little bit of constriction in your body when we're talking about money, or maybe you may be feeling open and expansive with how you're feeling in your body about money. And regardless with where you are at with your body and your belief system around money, it is always an incredible topic to be able to talk about, to educate ourselves on, because the reality is that we haven't had much education in order to be able to really support ourselves in this area. And unless you've really gone off on your own to be able to educate yourself in this, then you really won't have much support in it. So we have Kristen hopping on here live. So we're just going to give her a second here to pop on. Here she is. And today we're going to touch on a lot of different topics. There's obviously a lot of different stuff about money that we could chat about. Hi, Kristen. So excited you're on here. Hello. So I was just saying we're going to chat about quite a few topics on here today. So regardless with where you're at, kind of with your saving, with your finances, with your competence around finances, you will receive value out of this. And I know I did this before the call as well, but inviting all of you guys to hold up an empty cup. Pretend like you're holding a cup in your hand and dumping out this cup. And in this cup is all of your prior knowledge, your prior wisdom, your prior experience, all of the things. Dumping them all out so that we can come into this space to talk about finances with an open mind and an open heart to really set ourselves up for a brighter future for ourselves, our families, and for the world. Hello, everybody that is in the comments saying hello. We are so happy that you're here. This is going to be a very engaging conversation, so feel free to chime away in the comments, and we will take the time to be able to come back and read through the comments. We'll be asking you some questions in there as well. And if you are listening to this recording on the podcast, we are doing these live on Instagram all the time. So you can check back at Laura Plahuta and come back to there to see when we're going to be doing them live if you would like to hop on live. So without further ado, I am so excited, Kristen, to have you here.
So excited to be here. I'm so excited to share with everyone and hopefully add a ton of value.
Yeah, I'm so excited. So Kristen's a financial coach and she helps people with this stuff. So we're going to be having a chat today about saving, about debt reduction, about investing. We're going to be talking a bit about the mindset that goes behind it. We've been programmed in a lot of scarcity mindset around money where we hang on to it and we hoard it and we maybe are afraid to spend it, or we go the opposite way. And this comes down to the root chakra. The root chakra, we either hoard it or we're just frivolous with it and we spend. And our spending habits are kind of all over the place. So we're going to be chatting about all stuff around that. And when it really does come into balance is when we can really start building our lives forward. And the money comes in the root chakra. It's like the base, which means that we can't build a tower on top of that if the base is not fucking sturdy. So this is like an amazing conversation that I'm so excited to have with you, Kristen, because it really is. It's truly like it's that base of what we need to have confidence in order for us to build on our lives in every area, whether it's our business, our career, our relationships with self. Everything comes down to that base of what we are able to build on. So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I've really been trying to tune into is connecting financial wellness with mental and physical health, because money can be such a block in all these different areas of life. And when we can just get our finances in order, it relieves a lot of other stresses and a lot of different things, including like relationships and some of the ones that you mentioned.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and it's interesting because like I know in my journey, like I've gone through all different types of spaces with money. Like I started working when I was 15, and like in my family, it was like work, got to get money, got to do and it attached a lot of my worth to work. So I always had very good work ethic, right? I always made money. There was always money there, right? But then it was like the spending habits. So even when I was working as a paramedic, I had lots of money, but like I would literally just go blow it on things. It was like emotionally, like feeling emotional and buying things, or I would be bored and I would buy things, and I would have a brand new vehicle in the house and all of these things. I would go shopping on Amazon, like all of these things would just show up, and then the money just kept going in and out. And I would still save money, but it could be better. And then through my
Yeah.
entrepreneur journey, it kind of like went the opposite way, where it was like, oh my gosh, I quit my job, had to then take my money from selling my house. I used that to live, and I was doing stuff, investing in my education, all of this stuff to build my business.
Mhm.
And like now I'm like working my way out of debt because I've been so blessed to have that money to be able to now invest in my business. And now it's like working my way out again. So it's like wherever you are on the spectrum, this is going to be so amazing. And I'm just so excited to learn from you as well, Kristen. So amazing. I'd love it if you'd be open to sharing a little bit about like how you got into where you are right now and like what got you so excited about financial stuff and financial
Yeah.
wellness for people.
I love that. Yeah, it's actually really interesting. So, I actually have an environmental background. I went to school for environmental management and ecosystem restoration. And while I loved what I did, I fairly quickly realized I couldn't do it forever. It was really draining on my body. And I didn't even really realize I was open to something part time, but somebody had actually referred me and they asked if I was open to making extra money part time. Sounds good. It doesn't hurt. So I actually just started part time. I was working at like 70 to 80 hours a week, doing naturalization and things like that. And then I started working in finance kind of on the side. But as my passion for finances grew, I transitioned from that. And this is what I do full time now. Luckily, my partner actually runs a landscaping business. So I still get to get my hands dirty and I help him, but I kind of do it on my own terms, which is a little nicer too,
Yeah.
choosing my money too. But I always knew that I wanted to have a positive impact. And that's why I got into the environmental field. And now I'm just able to do it in a different way. And when you see the power of what you do for other people and how you're really able to transform their finances and alleviate some stress or even just give them hope that there is a way to retire. A lot of times when I meet with people, I ask, when would you like to retire? And they're like, never. Like, okay, let's change that. Let's have a goal
Yeah.
and let's beat the goal, right? And so just really being able to work with people and keep things light and making that positive impact in people's lives. And I just want to have this ripple effect of really, being able to help somebody and teach them some different skills. And then maybe they're going to tell somebody else and they're going to be able to teach those other skills. And it's going to just have this huge impact. And that's really what I'm looking to do.
Beautiful. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I know that you're very big on education. And before we get into that, you mentioned something about how you were working like 60, 70-hour weeks and overworking. And it's interesting. I always say this, it's like we don't have to do things the same as our parents did. We are in a completely different space where we have way more opportunities than our parents ever did, yet our belief systems are still hanging on to those old ways of creating money where we have to work like a dog until we die. And like even still now, you say, like you said, it's so it must be really sad when you hear people that are like, no, like they don't see it that it's possible for them to be able to break out of that cycle of literally working until you die. And I know that was when I was shifting out of paramedic, actually, there was an instance, a coworker of mine, he was a paramedic, most amazing guy ever. And he was so close to retirement and he ended up passing away because of a stroke. And like him and his wife, like I'm just like I can't even imagine having that happen. And that
Mhm.
was one of those big pivotal things for me where I was like, I don't want that to happen with me. I know that is in my head and my belief system isn't working for me. That didn't feel good
Mhm.
in my body to be in that space where I was like having to work until I was like 50 or 60 and then retiring
Yeah.
if I could, which at the rate the economy is going right now, if you have that mindset, you are literally going to be struggling your whole entire life with finances. So it makes
Yeah.
me so excited that you are here to be able to help people shift from that old place of having to work and never really getting ahead to start
Yeah.
seeing those gaps and those opportunities where people can start shifting their mindset, shifting what they're doing on a tangible level in their everyday life with their money so they can
Yeah.
start pivoting and opening up all of the opportunities that are possible for them.
Yeah. And what I tell people too is some people will say, well, I love what I do. I want to work. And then I just ask the question of when would you like to be financially independent and have the option to work? Because
Yeah,
that way you're still planning for retirement. But if you love what you do, like, you do coaching, you love coaching, maybe you want to do it here and there when you're in your retirement years, like you have the option, but you don't have the obligation, which is the
exactly.
difference, right? Yeah, that's huge.
Hmm. Yeah, and would you be open to sharing a little bit about like the scarcity mentality versus like the abundance mentality and the difference between those two? Any tips or anything that you have for people around that?
Yeah, I love that because I feel like there's really so much to touch on, and so if we talk more on the scarcity side of things, a lot of the times we have people living more paycheck to paycheck. If they're not self-employed, or even if you are self-employed, you're like contract to contract, or whatever that looks
Yeah.
like. And so living that paycheck to paycheck, typically it's because we're looking at money in a different way, and so when we have that paycheck, we look, okay, this is how much I have to spend when you get that biweekly paycheck, for example. But we really focus on, what if you put a small portion of that away? Instead of having this much that you have to spend, now you have this much. You're still going to figure it out. You're still going to live within those means, but now you're starting to save for yourself, paying yourself first. And I'd love to dive into that a little bit deeper is, when you're focused on paying yourself first is that's when you're going to start to have more of that abundance because you're starting to see this accumulate. Like I have clients who, we start with doing $25 a month, right? It's just starting something to start building that habit. And then as you get into that habit and you see that grow and then you actually have money, then you want to put more and more away, right? And
Hmm.
so I worked with somebody, he's self-employed. I taught him this about 2 years ago. And I was very straightforward. I'm pretty straightforward. But I was like, I think the problem is that you're living paycheck to paycheck. You're thinking about spending your money before you even have it. But like, what if you just put a portion of your money away? That's what he started doing. And then he has like $70,000 saved in just a short time frame just because he thinks about his money differently. Now he has more money that he's putting away. And so that scarcity mindset is almost like it's hard for us to keep money because we don't think we deserve it, right?
Mm.
And so we're spending it kind of frivolously because we don't think that we actually deserve that money. It's kind of like if you don't build the money habits and you win the lottery, shortly after you win the lottery, you still have no money because you never had the habits in place. And that's part of what we do is really help teach those habits so that way you can move into that abundant side of things. So
Mm.
we touched a little bit about some things that I think are really useful when it comes to abundance. So one is keeping, like $100. It doesn't have to be a lot, but keeping $100 in your wallet at all times. Why do you do this? One is because it allows your mind to say, I have money, right? You have that abundance, but it does another thing where it allows you to choose to spend it or not. So then you're being more conscious of your spending. So when I first started in finance, one of the questions that I would ask myself when I was out, I like shopping. I'm not different than anyone else, right? But now I ask myself, do I really need this? Right?
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm like, I don't know, not really. Or I think on it for a while. Like, okay, if I need it next week, then I'll go out and get it, right? But if
Hmm.
you have $100 in your wallet, you're like, I've had this $100 in my wallet for 6 months. I don't want to spend it now, right? So you have the choice of spending it. It's like I have a friend who quit smoking and she had a pack of cigarettes she kept in her purse for 12 months, like a whole year. But she wanted it to be her choice not to smoke. And it's kind of the same thing when it comes to money. So knowing that you have money is huge, but then also having the power to say, I don't need to spend it. And then we talked a little bit about, I like to call it the expansion game. So the expansion game is really when you can print them out online, get checks, right? And you do it for 30 days. You write $1,000 check to yourself the first day and you spend it. Write down what would you spend that $1,000 on. The next day you do $2,000. next day $3,000, and you're spending every single dollar of it. And then at the end of 30 days, you have $30,000 you're spending in one day, right? And your mind is, you're like, these things are possible. I found myself looking at things in the shop being like, oh, this would be so great. And I felt like I had, this, like, I was like, I just made $30,000 today. No problem. Right? Like, you
Yeah.
have kind of this different mindset, but then you know that you're like, this is what you're working towards, right? Like making $30,000 a day. Like if you're, whatever your goals are, you can achieve that, right? So it's just expanding your thinking around money. I think really helps, like, move from that scarcity mindset to the abundance mindset, because I find more in the scarcity mindset, it's like we're like scared. Another one is you're scared to even spend money. So I have a client who has $1 million saved, but he's really strict when it comes to spending. So I
Yeah.
feel like spending is actually important too, because scarcity doesn't necessarily mean like living paycheck to paycheck, but you can be scared of even just spending the money that you do have. So knowing
Yeah.
that money flows, I think is really valuable. Is, it comes and goes. Money is abundant. Right? There's
Yeah.
like, that you're going to get it in one way or another. Like we just
Hmm.
got a check from the government. Right? Maybe people weren't expecting that. Or I had a friend who was feeling a lot of scarcity around money, and then she got a check from an insurance company, and she was like, great. It was like $2,000 she wasn't expecting, right? So money does flow when you're open to it.
For sure. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. And so to go back to the $100 in the purse, love that idea. And I know I was just sharing this with you that I actually have $100 sitting in my purse right now because I did an online shop for my Opa, and they gave me $100 and it's been sitting in my wallet. And honestly, just seeing it there, it makes you feel good. However, one thing that I'm finding that I'm doing, Kristen, is I will look at it and I'm like, oh, well, my credit card is right here. How do you feel like it is with people having credit cards and things so accessible? Like, Instagram, there's now like shopping on Instagram, there's Amazon, everything is so convenient that it is
Mhm.
right there. And the emotional piece to it is huge. And I loved what you
Mhm.
shared about like I can't remember exactly what it was, but it prompted me to like share that when I go on Instagram and like I find like something that I like, I just put it in my cart and I leave it there. And then if I
Yeah.
don't come back to it, I didn't actually want the damn thing. And most of the time, I didn't actually want it. So taking that pause, because when we're freaking doing these impulsive shit in our emotions, like that's when it's just like whatever you receive it, you're like, wow, I don't even want
Mhm.
this thing. Like, why did I even order this?
Yeah.
So any suggestions for people other than what I just shared about like maybe putting it in your cart and just leaving it for people when things are just so accessible? There's a lot of stress in our lives right now. There's a lot of shit going on. And that is one of those places that we can use as this like addictive thing to give us this false sense of whatever, that emotional hit, that dopamine hit, in order to give us some sort of pleasure in our lives right now.
Yeah, I think that's it's definitely huge. Really when you're looking at it's things are just really accessible is really what
Very
it comes down to.
accessible.
And like things are advertised to us. I'm like, I'll be thinking something and then I'll see an ad for it online. I'm like, you're kidding, how does this even work? But yeah, so I had a client who that's what he did. He puts things into his Amazon card. He's really diligent, researches and finds the things he likes. Last year, so every December, he deletes all the stuff that was in his Amazon cart that he didn't actually buy. He had $10,000 that he didn't spend.
No doubt,
So
eh?
it could be huge, and it could just
Yeah.
even just be that patience of being like, do I really need this? Or, take the time to think about it. Like, I was thinking I needed to get something for my office, and I'm like, okay, I got to do it right now. I feel like I need to do it immediately. And I'm like, does it really need to happen right now? What if I wait a week? If I forget about it in a week, it's not that important,
Yeah.
right? So kind of just taking that breath almost and really considering if you actually need something, or maybe even think about like doing an inventory in your house in some way, being like, okay, what is that replacing in my house? Or like, how is that going to improve the value of my life? So one thing that
Yeah.
I've been doing a little bit of a side note, but I've been like going through every single thing that I have in my house and trying to get rid of stuff. And like we accumulate so much. And by doing that, that's also helped me reduce spending because I'm like, I just got rid of a ton of stuff. I don't want more. Right. So it can be really powerful in terms of just, thinking about money in a different way of, just taking that pause and not having that instant gratification of buying something, or
Mm-hmm.
you have things that are show up at your house. I forgot that I bought that. Probably didn't need to buy it in the first place,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So another thing that I recommend is paying for things in cash, which sounds crazy in the digital world that we are because it's so easy to tap your credit card. You're like, how many times have you bought in something? I don't even know how much that cost me. I just tapped my card and it went through, right? And that definitely happens, I'm sure, way more often than we want to admit. So paying for things in cash. So when you're looking at like your budgeting, you can, discover like maybe you do every category in cash, groceries, gas, your entertainment, all those different things in cash. And when that cash runs out, you're like, that's all I had for the month. And that kind of helps you be more reasonable of, did I actually want to spend this? Because, I gave myself a budget of, $200. I only have $50 or I'm sorry, $50 left. And there's still 2 weeks in the month. So maybe I don't need to buy that because you're like trying to stick within that budget. So
Mm-hmm.
some people, it's helpful to pay for cash with everything. Some people, it's just specific categories. They're like, when I go out for dinner, that's where I'm overspending. So if
Right.
you're paying for that category in cash, you're physically seeing that money in your wallet to say, okay, I know I only have this much left. And what we find is when you do pay for things in cash, you have some left over at the end of the month because you are more mindful of what you're spending, and then that grows your savings, right? So you
Right.
have extra money instead of, looking at your credit card bill at the end of the month saying, how the heck did it get so high, right? And I would recommend is sometimes you have to kind of start where you are. So if you have credit card debt, like we focus on how to help get out of debt, but I would say pay off your credit card if you're going to use your credit card on a monthly basis. So that way you're not carrying over that debt. Some people say, I want the points. Okay, that's totally fair, right? I totally know the
Everything for
points
the
are
air
great.
miles.
Yeah, right? So, if you want to get those points, just make sure that you're paying it off on a monthly basis, and you're living within your budget, and you're not extending yourself. Because I know it's crazy, but the average person in Canada spends $1.72 for every dollar that they earn. Because it's so easy to get
Yeah.
debt in Canada. It's like, here's a line of credit, a credit card, a car loan, I'm buying a house, or all these different things. Like it's hard to go shopping without somebody offering you a credit card.
It's
So
true.
just being
Yeah.
more
Literally all the
mindful.
time.
Yeah, like when you like go to Canadian Tire, they they offer you a credit card.
Yeah.
So if you have a credit card, it would say only have one, and then use it on a regular basis and pay it off every single month, so you're not carrying that balance. Because that also makes you feel really good too, because it doesn't you don't hold that stress in your body when you're
Mm-hmm.
carrying that balance of a credit card. Even if you're carrying say $1,000 of a balance, it could feel really stressful in your body. So paying it off, you're like, okay, this is actually my money that I'm spending. You're living within your means, right? So I hope that
Yeah.
helps answer that question for you.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like the biggest takeaways that I got from that was that like having the awareness around where you are going over budget in certain areas, and then using that as like being more strict with yourself in those areas, having that discipline to be able to say, okay, I'm only going to use X amount of dollars
Yeah,
for this area, and maybe keeping that in cash or keeping it in a separate bank account or something to
yeah,
separate it so that you can actually see what you're doing there and start keeping track of it and being able to be like making decisions, yes or no, do I want this? It's kind of slowing the process down, not just going through the motions of allowing all of these old behavioral patterns to keep going and going and going, like actually slowing the fuck down and being like, okay, like, do I need this, yes or no? Is And one of the big things you said was value. Like, what value is this going to bring to my life? And when we
yeah,
start like actually aligning our spending with our values, like what are our core values? Like I know like the things that I spend my money most on is like my obviously my rent, my food. Like I love buying healthy food, my
Yeah.
isogenics, because I'm like, I really value the way that I feel in my
Yeah.
body. And then my business. Like those are like my
Mhm.
four things that I spend my most money on. So basically myself and my business. And that's like
Yeah.
where my core values lie right now. So when we can align, when we look at our spending, like you can really see where people's values lie.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I know I had a client who they were very much paycheck to paycheck, but they would buy like brand name bags, designer bags. I'm like, I don't buy designer bags. So what are they called? Designer bags. And I'm like, it's just like shifting your mindset of like what's most important to you. So when you're looking at, if I can touch on for a sec, is when you're looking at breaking down those categories, is the first category when you're prioritizing what you're spending for should be yourself, and not spending on yourself like buying yourself jewelry or going out buying clothes. I mean like your savings, right? So really we look at we use a 3 account system. So like an emergency fund, a short-term savings, and a long-term savings. We recommend that you put 10 to 20% of your income towards those savings. So whether you're saving for a trip or you're saving for a computer or a car or a house or retirement, right? You need to be spinning these different plates at the same time. So that really is useful to make sure that you're kind of like staying within those limits that you're giving yourself. And then the next categories are, you know, your utilities, your rent, food, right? All of those different things. And then whatever you have left over is what you actually have to spend. So by
Mm-hmm.
paying yourself first, it really allows you to make sure that you're working towards your goals, because that's how we stay in debt, is because we are constantly spending our money without saving or having a savings plan. Like maybe we're putting a
Mm-hmm.
little bit away, but we don't know our financial independence number. So we don't know how much do I actually need to have saved by the time I retire to make sure that money's not going to run out and I'm going to have a consistent amount month in, month out, right? So putting that first on your priority list is really going to help you kind of stay within that budget. And, you know, the amount that you kind of have left over is what you're more like splurging on in those different things.
Mm-hmm. Right,
Yeah.
yeah. And when you get to save like that too, like also getting excited. Like I love chats like this because like we get to get excited about money. Like it doesn't have to
Yeah.
be this big doom and gloom thing about money being heavy. It's like, no, money's awesome. Money provides us so much stuff. And when we can actually like see
Yeah.
that and be grateful for like the money that we have and all of the opportunities that it brings us, it does allow, like you said, that give and take of that flow. And I
Yeah.
will probably have some other people on here to talk about the energetics of money on the podcast as well, because I'm
Yeah.
fascinated with that. But like money is just an energy. It's just a medium in which we transfer things. So it's like really understanding the value of what we're receiving from it really does make it so that, okay, yes, I do want to save for this because I'm going to be saving for like a trip, or I'm going to be saving for a house, or I'm going to be saving for this. Like that's exciting to be able to take that money and put it in there instead of
Yeah.
looking at it as like, oh my God, I have to take X amount, put it away, and I can't spend that money. Like, oh my gosh, no, like I get to take this money and I get to put it here so that I can actually go do this thing
Yeah.
eventually, which is a shift because we're so used to this quick reward. Like we've literally been so like programmed into this like quick reward. And if we don't see it right now, then we give up and we whatever. And we only want
Yeah.
what's going to bring us that pleasure in the moment. But it's like when we
Yeah.
can start shifting that mentality of that as well, like being able to see the long-term gain of what we're receiving by us shifting these behavioral patterns when it comes to our spending, like how it's going to set us up in the future. Like it's massive.
Yeah, and just remember too, like 2 things that I'll touch on that. One is like when you're saving, you're not losing that money. It's just going in a different location. Because
Yeah.
sometimes we feel, oh, I'm putting $1,000 a month towards saving, and it's like it feels like a lot, but it's like it's just going in a different spot. Like it's
Yeah.
still yours. But then also no, like say you're saving for a trip or you're saving for even like when you think of retirement, that money is going to go to help somebody else eventually down the road. If you're saving for retirement, like you're saving it so it can grow into something bigger and you'll have more that you can give the world and you can help other people in terms of, I always think of money as it's going for to work for you, right?
Yeah.
So So yeah, if you think of it in that way, you're going on vacation, you're putting that away. For the longest time, I had a vacation fund. I was putting like equal amounts into vacation and long-term savings. So like it was really important to me, right?
Yeah.
And so, but knowing that that's going to go towards helping other people, so you can really look at it in different ways. Like I need to save this so I have more to give down the road, instead of that impulse buying that maybe doesn't make as much of an impact.
Yeah. Yeah. So cut back on the impulse shit and see the long-term vision. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
I love that. So I'm just going to read through the comments here, Kristen.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. So happy that you're on here with us. So Mike says, hey, just joining in. Do you buy and sell your own stocks? So we haven't really touched on investing and stuff yet, but we can get into that after this. And so Mike says, I love debt and leveraging it to purchase assets. And yeah, that's a really good point, Mike, and you can talk about this as well, Kristen. But being able, like, we are
Mhm.
blessed over in Canada to be able to receive loans and money, and it is an amazing way that we can leverage that debt to be able to move ourselves forward. And I know I did that last year when I was really investing into my education within my business, where I saw that
Yeah.
opportunity where I was like, okay, this is where I want to go. Okay, let's just do it, knowing with that long-term vision of what is going to come to be able to pay that debt back. So it is a really incredible opportunity for that. So is there anything you'd like to share on
Yeah.
that, Kristen?
Yeah, I think it's really important to kind of understand that factor, and investing in yourself is so important. So, if you haven't read the book Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, go get it today. It'll change your life. But so he looks at categorizing your money into 6 different jars or categories, accounts, whatever you want to break it up into. But one, he says 10% put towards education, because growing yourself is going to grow your income and grow your net worth. So that's definitely a huge one. In terms
Mm-hmm.
of, borrowing money to make it work for you, is one of the things we do is an RSP loan. So basically you take out a loan, you put it into your RSP account, but then it grows over time. So if you were to put $100 into an account for, 10 years, we know that that's going to grow slower than just throwing in 10 grand today, because 10 grand has the power to grow faster. It's that compounding interest. And that's something that I think is really, if I can touch on quickly, because I think it's
Mm-hmm.
like, if I could only teach one thing, this is what I want to teach, is like the high cost of waiting is, if we wait to save, say you start putting money away at age 27, you put $100 a month away until age 65. By the time, if at 9% return, it grows to, say, $470,000. If you wait 1 year and start when you're 28 years old, that doesn't just cost you $100 a month, so $1,200. It actually costs you $40,000 in the long term,
Wow.
because it didn't grow for that extra 1 year that it could have, which is pretty phenomenal to see.
Yeah.
So, and even when you're looking at borrowing, you can look at, I know people that take out mortgages on their house to go buy another house kind of idea, or there's different strategies, because if you own 2 houses, you're going to be able to sell both of them, and that's going to be able to grow your net worth, right? So there's definitely ways to take the money that you have, maybe get a loan and use it in a different way that is going to actually grow your net worth even more. Like, there's good debt versus bad debt, essentially, is what you're looking at.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks so much for explaining on that,
Yeah.
expanding on it. Yeah, there's so much to talk about in when it comes to finances, that it really is just that slow process. So I'd love to know, for those of you guys that are on here in the comments, like, what has been your biggest takeaway that you have had so far that you are going to take and you are going to implement into your life, um, and that you're actually going to take away from this, because we can take all of the education in that we want, but if we aren't taking the actual tangible action steps out of this, then there's no point of doing any of it and listening to it. Just in one ear, out the other.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. So we'll just give everybody, if you guys want to share in the comments. So Mike says time is our most valuable resource. I agree with
totally.
that. Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Love that. Yeah, is there anything else that you'd like to share, Kristen? I know we kind of
Yeah.
touched on saving stuff. We touched on some debt reduction stuff. We touched on some investing. Um,
Yeah, one thing that I was thinking is as you asked that question, there's no budgeting tool that works for everyone. Like everyone's a little bit unique. Some people work through spreadsheets, and I recommend, either finding one online, or creating your own spreadsheet. Jesse and I'm very hands-on. Like I write down everything, like write down your expenses every day so you're more aware of your spending. One of my clients actually, she has two different accounts and she'll take every bi-weekly, so she gets paid bi-weekly, so every 2 weeks she'll put the money that she needs for her, just her rent, shelter, food, all those different things into one account, so she knows that those things are covered. It's the exact amount that she needs, and those things are going to come out automatically every 2 weeks, so she doesn't have to worry about, am I ever going to have to pay, or can I pay my rent, kind of idea. And then anything that's left over is left over. So
mhm.
finding like that really works for her. She's like, if I don't do this, I'm going to spend my money and I'm not going to be able to pay my rent, right? So
Yeah.
trying to find those different things that do work for you in terms of like those budgeting tools, or even just realizing like, where are you overspending and what are the habits? Like, are you emotionally spending, right? Are you like, oh, I just had an argument, I'm gonna go shopping, right? Or I just had an argument, I'm gonna go out for dinner, right? Like even that is a way of spending emotionally. So kind of
Hmm.
taking those things into account. One other thing that I would love to touch on is a little bit more around debt. Is, I'm not sure if you guys have heard of it before, is a concept called debt stacking. Do you mind if I jump into that a little bit, Laura?
Yeah, for sure. I haven't heard of that before, so I'm all ears.
Oh, beautiful. I'm so happy to hear that because so many times when I bring it up, I'm like, I've never heard of this before. Like, it's such a great tool that so many people can add value for, and it's not really complicated. So we use an algorithm, and I'm sure you can find something similar online, or like we can help you with that. But basically what it is debt stacking is rearranging your debts into a more efficient order. Sometimes it's highest interest first, sometimes it's lowest balance first. But then say you're putting $2,500 a month towards your debt, your mortgage, credit cards, lines of credits, those kinds of things. So you want to make sure you're paying the minimum payments on all of them at least, and then any extra money you have, you put it on the top of the list. So you kind of attack the first one, and then eventually that first one is going to get paid off. And say you're putting $200 towards the first, let's say, credit card. Instead of when that credit card is paid off, putting it back into your budget, because mentally that's what we think. We're like, thank God this credit card is gone. I have an extra $200 I could spend. No, that is going to get you back into debt.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
take that $200 and put it towards the second debt so you can pay off the second debt faster, and any extra money you have, put it onto that second debt. So attacking one debt at a time like this in a list actually is way more efficient, saving you time and interest than being like, I have $200, I'll put $50 extra onto four different debts, right? So
Right.
that's a simple tool that can really, like, I have a client, she just bought a house and she has a little bit of debt, and even though she's like just got a mortgage, we're able to get out of debt in 16 years because we came up with this plan just through debt stacking. It wasn't anything complicated, but including her mortgage and everything out of debt in 16 years, and she's only 24 years old, right?
Wow.
Like, it's incredible to see what you can do if you stick to the plan, and then just being disciplined. Even when it comes to investments, is, I always hear, the market is down, should I pull out all my money? Absolutely not. Ask yourself, the market is down, do I have more money that I can put into it? Because you're buying
Yes.
things on sale, right? Like, if you
Yeah.
can buy a pair of shoes on sale, you're going to do it. It's the same thing when you're buying investments, right? So having the discipline to say, it's going to be okay, I'm going to stick to my debt plan, I'm going to invest money when the market is down, I'm going to continue on my plan and keep moving forward. So discipline can be a huge one, even like when you're looking at impulsive spending, right? When we're talking about buying stuff on Instagram, is taking that second to be disciplined with yourself. Do I really need it? That's a form of discipline too. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think I feel like I could just talk all day. So I hope that's
Yeah.
helpful.
No, that was so
Yeah.
helpful. And just to clarify with that, so you're saying that when if somebody has multiple debts, say they have a credit card, they have a line of credit, Credit cards, obviously higher interest than the line of credit. You pay the minimum payments, but then you would want to pay off the higher interest one first.
Yeah, potentially. Like sometimes you pay the lowest balance first because it frees up cash flow, or you can pay the highest interest first. We have an algorithm that we use, so it kind of sorts it out.
It might be
But even if
different.
you're like, I would suggest like lowest balance, highest interest, like one of those two, depending on kind of where you are. So most credit cards, like 19.9%. If that's a small balance, just pay that off, get it over with, right?
Right.
So and I'm sure you can even find tools where you can just plug in your numbers. You want to know your interest rate, your minimum payments, what debts you have, what are the balances, those kinds of things. And then you can kind of discover it. But essentially, as long as you're paying off one at a time, you're going to be even faster. But typically, yeah, you want to focus on either the lowest balance so you can free up that cash flow or the highest interest.
Right. Okay. And then from there, then you would keep that money and you would then pay off the other one. And then eventually you would just take that money and you would save it. You're already putting it
Yeah,
away. That way,
exactly.
just save it.
Exactly. Like if you're saving, you're putting away $2,500 a month that you were putting towards your debt, and now you're putting it towards your
Yeah,
future. That's gonna grow real fast.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing. So we do have another question here. Mike says, "Are you a certified
Beautiful.
accountant?" So I'll let you
So,
explain everything that you've got.
yeah, thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. So, not a certified accountant. There are a lot of licenses when it comes to finance. We do a little bit of everything. I have a lot of referral partners that we work with, but I am licensed in insurance and Canadian securities or mutual funds.
Oh, can you repeat that, Kristen? You just cut out there.
Oh, yeah, no problem. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So I was just saying, Mike, I'm not a certified accountant. We do a lot when it comes to finances, but accounting is not one of them. Unfortunately, I do have, something that I work with, but I am licensed for life insurance as well as Canadian securities or mutual funds.
Beautiful. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. And if anybody else has any other questions, then feel free to put them in the comments. That was so great. Thank you so much for just coming on here and sharing that. And just to reiterate to everybody, if you need to rewatch this, please rewatch it and take notes. Like there is so much in here. I know I'm going to go through and be taking notes and like narrowing it down into like the action step that I want to take moving out of this. So really like inviting everybody who is on here listening, whether for the recording or here with us live, to take away one thing that you want to implement into your life moving forward and start doing the damn thing. Because like Kristen said, like time is of the essence and it does make a big difference. And we can keep saying, oh, tomorrow, 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 yet that's not going to get us moving forward with where we want to go. And our financial independence and our ability to be sovereign in who we are is largely dependent on our financial situation with the way the economy is going. We can either see everything that's happening right now. There's kind of like two people. You'll have like the people that are like, oh, there's so much shit going on, and they're like seeing and complaining and all of this stuff. Or you'll have the people that are seeing the opportunities of
Yeah.
all of the shit that's going on. And that is where, when you like hear about all the most successful people in the world, they capitalize on these markets. They
Yeah.
capitalize on them. And that's the biggest thing right now is if you start learning these topics, learning these things and implementing it, like you are going to set yourself up for massive success with everything that's going on in the world right now. Yes, there's tons of changes. There's lots of shit going on that's like changing all the time, but like just tap in as much as you can and just keep doing all of these little things and it's going to move you forward.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so Mike just said, thank you. I was curious as a business if I need to make a certain amount of revenue to go from sole proprietor to a corporation. Yeah, that would be an accountant, Mike.
Totally. Sorry, Mike.
Yeah, I do have an accountant, Mike, that I work with, so I can send you her contact, and I can
Yeah.
also have her on the podcast to chat more about that. I don't know the specific number. I actually am supposed to email her back right now to ask her that same question. Funny enough. So I don't even have the answer yet for you, but I can get you in contact with her, and you can reach out to her and get that information. Her name's Jamie. She's amazing. And I can also have her on the podcast. I'm sure she would love to come on here and chat more about that as well. So you're welcome. So last question for you, Kristen. So if you were to leave the planet tomorrow, what would be the advice that you would leave for everybody? Your wisdom.
Mm, that is a tough question. I love it. I think if I were to leave the planet tomorrow, what would I want to leave behind essentially? Is I think just knowing that you have options. I feel like so many people are just stuck in where they are and they don't know how to get out of that situation, and there's options. Like somebody could either help you or you can learn. Like we have so many resources just through the internet. Like we're in a different phase now, right?
Yeah.
So just knowing that you can make changes in your life, like not necessarily even financially, right? But whatever you set out for yourself, like you have the abilities to achieve those things if you work towards it. And you're 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 probably greater than you think. I know for myself, I've been doing a ton of work, with Laura, and just really learning how amazing that we are, and the value that we bring to the world, and just knowing that you can achieve those things. I think that would be the biggest thing that I would leave behind, is just that hope for people, to be able to get on track, and whether in their finances or their personal life, and that they can achieve whatever they desire.
Yeah,
Yeah.
massive. Well, thank you so much for coming on here, Kristen, and just sharing all of your in-depth experience and wisdom when it comes to finances, because I know that is a huge topic for everybody right now. Whether you do have an abundance of money in your bank, or whether you are working to get yourself out of debt, or whether you're kind of sitting in that place, like there's always so much room for growth when it comes to our money mindsets and the way that we look at money as a society.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for coming on here and just sharing all of that with us. How is it that people can get in contact with you if they have other questions, if they'd like to connect with you and learn more about what you do and how you can potentially help them?
Yeah, absolutely. So the best way to probably contact me is over the phone. So my number is 905-510-2767. And I can even put it in the comments. And then also through my Instagram is a great way. So it's Chris, Kris 10, so Chris 10, definitely. So that's my Instagram, and you can reach me through there. And again, I can throw it in the chat. Those would be the best ways to get in touch. I'd love to answer any questions that anyone has.
That's beautiful. Yeah, and I will put them in the show notes that go below. Yeah, so that everybody can get in contact with you. So thank you so much again, Kristen, for coming on here. We appreciate you so much. If you guys are in here in the comments, if you want to share some love here for Kristen for everything that she just provided, that would be
And thank
absolutely
you.
amazing. And if you are just catching it at the end here, I will be sharing this as a recording. So it will be up on Instagram for the next 24 hours. And then after that, it will be going on the podcast on Monday morning. So Reignite Your Soul podcast, which is on all major podcast platforms. So you can follow it on there, or you can catch it on Instagram for the next 24 hours. But it's definitely going to be an episode that you will want to go back and have your pen and paper and take lots of notes. And like I said, take out one or two things. Don't try to implement all of it. One or two things, and like even save the episode and come back to it. There's so much goodness that is in here that you can come back to and just keep learning. But yeah, thank you so much. Anna says, thank you so much for this valuable information. Thank you for being on here with us, Anna.
And thank you, Laura. I really appreciate you having me. It's been fantastic, and I'm really glad that we're able to connect and work together.
Yeah, me too. It's honestly been such a pleasure. Amazing. Okay, well, enjoy the rest of your day, everybody. And if you do want to catch the next episode that we are doing live here on Instagram, check out my Instagram page at Laura Plahuta, and you will be able to see when the next one is. I don't even know when it is going to be yet. Probably Friday next week. I think that's when it's going to be. But just keep checking on the page and you'll be able to see when they are. And I love you guys all so much. And I'm so proud of you just for being on here and just learning and continuing to grow and continuing to want to improve yourself and improve your life. There's so much abundance here for us when we choose to claim it. So keep claiming it. It's ours for the taking. Amazing. Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Love you. Thanks so much, Kristen.
Thank you.
Bye.